recording it rather than go live. We can choose whether or not we use it or not afterwards, okay? Right, so what I'd like to do to start with is for each one of you to sort of introduce the dog in question with the dog's age, the dog's breed. I'm thinking there's going to be a lot of Cocker Spaniels because I seem to attract Cocker Spaniels. And along with just a little bit about what the behavior is, okay? So we haven't yet got Anne. So number 2 on my list is, oh, it's you, David. Right, over to you. You were the second one here. Can't hear you. Can't hear you.
How about now?
Oh, you're very quiet.
Any better?
Oh, it is, yes. There we go. Great, yes. Are you just here for interest, or have you got a dog which, you know, does have these problems?
No, it's more than interest. We have Milo, who's a year-old working Cocker Spaniel, a tan Cocker Spaniel. He's our first dog, so we're sort of getting to grips with all of that. He's, yeah, as I said, he's just turned a year. He's pretty good with most things. We've had some guarding issues, which we've worked with Theo on, and we've had some behaviours around some light chasing as well. But the reason we're here is around his mouthing, which I think is probably more mouthing than biting. But he's a year old now, and he still quite likes mouthing like he did when he was a puppy.
That's my question, really, as I'm going to ask you all, is would you say that your dog was a mouthy puppy?
Yes.
Yes, I think so. Although I see some pictures on Facebook of perforated arms, and it was never that bad. He had very sharp teeth, but he and we've been trying to sort of keep a track, a bit of a log of when it's happening. It doesn't always happen, but we've noticed a couple of times he does it when he's tired. He quite likes being handled and stroked. He sits on the sofa with us, and he quite likes sitting on your lap. But there does seem to be a point, often when you're taking your hands off him, where when you're pulling your hands away, he then seems to kind of go for a little bit of a mouth, sort of mouthing. It's not a bite, it's just mouthing. And also he's quite attracted to cuffs. We'll notice with cuffs and jumpers and things, he likes sort of, when you're wearing cuffs, he will sort of try and grab onto those, and he'll often catch your hand or something.
I guess the next question is, for now, is what do you do about it? I have to tell you all that David actually is quite well-informed person. He's done quite a bit of behaviour and training. You're really getting into it yourself, aren't you?
Yeah.
Helping other people. So he's quite well-informed. So hopefully you perhaps be able to add some help to this meeting as well. But for you yourself, what do you do when Milo starts doing that?
No pressure after picking me up. Blind panic. Well, I guess we don't do very much really. So if we're sitting on the sofa and he'll jump up and he just starts mouthing, we'll try and just usually move away from him, just detach from him. We don't really divert onto things anymore, like toys and things, because he feels a bit big for that, and he'll play with toys in the garden, but he doesn't tend to chew. He does like yakkers and things, so if there's a yakker to hand, we might put that onto him, but it's less of a teething thing. It's more like
I think it sounds to me as if in a way you're stirring him up a little bit. Just going on a bit too long.
I think so, and I guess the balance for us has been to try and know when to. I guess it's a bit like toddlers. It's like there is a breaking point when they're on the floor stamping their feet. It's quite difficult to know where that millimetre is between being on the right side and the wrong side.
I think possibly that the thing is always to stop a bit too soon, isn't it? Yes. So in a way, I would say it's probably arousal, isn't it?
I think so, and he continues to do it. So I guess whatever we've tried to do has been to try and detach him from it. We're much better at reading him now. Like we've become much better at the body language. So when he is in a slightly mouthy mood, we tend just not to handle him as much, because it's not a proper bite.
Trouble, is it?
Yeah, because it's not it's not painful biting or behaviour that feels particularly aggressive. it almost feels like, I think he gets away with it a lot. We don't deal with it because on the scale of badness, it feels like it's just one of those things. It's interesting that there's a group of people who are suffering from the same issue, so it's probably not as normal as it is.
Yes. I would say that first of all, I mean, dogs that do this, I would say almost without exception, puppies that were bitey and mouthy, particularly. Maybe not in your case, David, because actually this isn't particularly extreme now. But if they are extreme by the time you get past 5 or 6 months, I would say it's somehow not been dealt with properly. But people say, I mean, all the Facebook groups, they all say, oh, that's only natural for a puppy, they'll grow out of it. Well, I don't agree. They don't always grow out of it. They sometimes do, but they don't always. And, you know, I think catching it early and getting it right then actually can avoid a whole lot of future grief, to be honest with you. But I don't know if you agree with me there, David.
No, I do. I think this is our first dog. We've as a family, we've learned a lot about dogs and body language, and we've worked with you and done a bunch of training around it. But the bell curve of where we started, our position. I look at the books I was reading back then, and the things we were doing. We started very much about dominance theory, disciplining, you know, like doing this, and we've gone completely the other way now to sort of completely positive. But so we've often thought that the biting has been just because of he needs to be castrated or something like that. So we kind of looked for all these other reasons why he's doing it. But I think where we've landed on is there is a line between when he likes to be handled and stroked and his mouthing is arousal. It's just when he gets a bit excited, and we haven't always read it.
You know, for cats on its back and you tickle its tummy, there comes that moment the cat's had enough and he bites you. A cat gets away with it, but it's the same sort of thing, isn't it? You just go on that little bit too much and oh, it's had enough. Yes, right, okay. Well, the one thing obviously with all of us is that the only way we'll ever change what the dog does is if we change what we do ourselves. You know, that is. And shall we give you a bit longer or
yeah, I can't get. I'm here. I can't get. I think you can hear me.
I can. Shall we? Would you like to tell us? Introduce.
Yeah.
Introduce your dog.
Yeah.
Tell us what's happening.
I've got an 8-month-old German Shepherd.
Yes.
She was a very, as you say, with puppies, she was quite bad at mouthing.
Right.
We tried the redirecting, which seemed to work for a while, but then she kind of got fed up of that. We tried putting her in the room like for time out. Obviously when she's stopping, we've tried the positive side. I've tried the clicker. We've obviously, as they, when she started to settle down and we've got her to stop and to sit, so I've treated her and clicked. But as I say, it's more come evening time.
Yes.
My husband comes home and she's worse with him than she is with me, or when she gets overexcited.
Yes.
And then although there's, you know, she can be quite obedient. I mean, I have very few other problems with her. Well, she likes to dig holes in my lawn. But other than that, we have very few other problems with her. But it is, I've got a lot of grandchildren. And it does worry me that, you know, she gets a little bit carried away with them, that she doesn't intentionally want to hurt. She wants to play. Or
yours is quite a typical situation, because these things tend to peak in the evening. And what happens is all day, generally things in the day, gradually the dog more and more aroused, you know, the stress builds up a little bit, things happen, exciting things happen, or all sorts of things happen. As the day wears on, it sort of builds up. And then it doesn't take very much in the evening to send over. You know, they have a meal, man comes home, they've had their walk, and something sends them over. And the other thing, of course, is dogs reflect us. So it could be that when your husband comes home, he isn't calm enough. Maybe he does too vigorous a welcome, you know, which really is enough to tip the dog over. Is it a male dog, did you say?
No, it's female. Kira, no, it's female.
Female. It's just enough to top her over. I mean, as a very brief thing, I would say, see what you can do during the day, not to get her too wound up. And ask him to not get her too excited. And maybe as he comes home, as he comes in the door, instead of saying a major big hello to her, what if he gives her something to chew? Because if she's chewing, that'll help her calm down. He won't feel so.
Yeah, we have. I mean, we do tend to do that. because she's on a raw meat diet. So
give her a bone, but don't
yeah.
wait until she's excited. Instead of saying a big hello, just say to her, "Hi, Kira, here's a bone."
Yeah.
And maybe that might just stop her.
Yeah.
Because what looks to me is what's driving it really is just excitement, isn't it? And so
Yeah, that is how she seems. Yeah, she certainly is more of a problem when she's excited. Definitely.
Well, you can do anything you like clicker, you can do all these things, but if she's excited, it's not going to work, because actually it's all a symptom of excitement. So you've got to get at the excitement, haven't you?
Yeah, obviously I've tried walking her just before he comes home.
Yes.
I think, well, I'll tire her out.
Does the walk make her excited?
No, not particularly. She does obviously when you say that you're taking for a walk, she gets really excited. But by the time she comes home, she's, normally quite calm.
If a walk should be, if you just go around and stand about, let her sniff and just mooch about, follow her around a little bit, and something really calm, sprinkle some food on the ground. So she's all calm when he comes in, doesn't say much of a hello, just gives her something to chew, and see if you can keep it down like that.
Yeah.
At least you know what it is. I mean, as she gets older and the more you work on it, it'll get better.
Yeah, I mean, I've always had German Shepherds all my life, and I've never had this issue at this age. But we've normally had dogs. It's the first time we've had a bitch.
I don't think you're going to accuse her because it's just a bitch, to be honest with you. I've got a German bitch, and she's never ever done it.
No, as I say, that's the only difference that we've ever had. So whether it's just this age, just something about her, she does get really excited all the time.
I really am a firm believer that our dogs reflect us, and it really, we need to look a little bit at what we're doing. So if she's too excited, are we actually a bit too exciting?
Yeah, so if we keep calmer, then she might be.
Right, and see the things that arouse her. Let's carry on anyway. So who is number 3 on my list? Sarah. You were number 3. So,
hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, fine.
Yeah, okay, just got my headphones in. I've got Lottie, who's 8 months now, and she's a show Cocker Spaniel. She was a very mouthy puppy. I've got 5 children, so we've got sort of a busy household, and she was very keen on sort of eating pajama bottoms and feet and things like that in the mornings, so she was a handful with that. I've noticed, really, I think I've noticed a pattern. So again, it's quite often in the evening. When she's had a walk, she's very calm afterwards. So I think it sort of builds up, as you've already said. I think it's definitely when she gets overstimulated. So I think that's something that I need to work on, and I was looking for really some tips. I've noticed particularly things like, the children, if one of them sort of lies on the floor, then that means that she goes over to them, and then she'll start as if like she's, I suppose, play fighting a little bit, or giving her up. Yeah. So I've dealt with the children saying like, don't lie on the floor with her, stand up, all that sort of thing.
How old are the children?
Well, the youngest 2 are 6. So I've got 2 6-year-olds, an 8-year-old, and then 2 13-year-olds. And I've also noticed another time she does it, she'll sort of jump up on the sofa, put her paws up on the sofa as if she wants to sit on your knee. But when I put her next to me on my knee, she'll sit next to me quite happily, but then she'll start trying to mouth my hands and things. That's the only time she does it with me. There's no other time. And when the children aren't here during the day, the incidences are very, very low of any mouthing. So it seems to be when they're at home at night. So I suppose she's ready for a walk.
Build up in the evening, and of having all these children.
Yes,
I do know that, I'm sure we all agree that the more people there are in the presence of the dog, the more excited the dog gets. And the fewer the people, the better. I mean, you've got loads of people, haven't you?
Yeah, and I've noticed like visitors, like my father-in-law is quite keen to sort of have her on the knee and stuff, and she then mouths him. So I try and get her down and trying to keep her calm, because once everyone's settled, she's great and she'll sit on a mat or do whatever. But I've noticed that. So really, it's when she's getting overstimulated, when there's lots of things going on. And
are you talking when other people come to your house?
I'm a what, sorry?
Are you talking about when other people come to your house?
Well, I've noticed, as I say, she does it with my father-in-law. He's the only one, really. When
does
people
he do a lot of playing with his hands with the dog?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is really something which I would say there's another common denominator almost. Most of these dogs have had somebody who has played hand games. and usually male, I'm afraid. Sorry, David, I know he doesn't know.
And I've tried to say sort of to the children as well, really, the sort of the thing about don't approach her, she'll come to you if she wants you, and to sort of leave her to be.
If you don't want her to mouth and play with hands, don't use hands for play. Use like no contact sports. It needs to have an object, tuggy thing, something else, not your hands.
But I've noticed like now we've come back from a walk and she's just happily sitting there, absolutely no problem. But if she hadn't have had a walk, she'd be, I suppose, I'm not saying it's boredom, because I know there's things I can do to alleviate the boredom, but as if she's looking for something to do, looking for a bit of, you know, she can be like that sometimes as well. So I just thought I might.
Daniel, isn't she?
Yes, yeah. So I just thought I might get some tips tonight about you know, we've got lots of toys, but she just doesn't seem very interested in doggy toys at all. She loves chews, but she's not very interested in toys. She's more.
Well, one thing, I mean, which probably applies to everybody, is that the more you give her in the way of mental enrichment, the less she's going to need to do the physical stuff.
Yeah.
And I think we tend to miss a lot of opportunities with food. I mean, what we do, we tend to give our dog a bowl of food twice a day. And, you know, there is gone. But the things that help dogs to be stable and keep calm are nearly all things to do with their mouths and their noses. So it's all to do with foraging, hunting, chewing, sniffing, all that sort of stuff. And so when we feed them, we're missing huge opportunity. And then afterwards, they're looking for things to do with their mouths and their, you know. I would say if you, at peak times, and forget about 2 meals, at peak times when you know he's going to be really excited, for instance, go and scatter 1 meal all over the grass. That's if it's dry food.
Yeah, she's raw. She's on raw food, so.
Well, you can still do quite a lot of it like that.
Yeah.
You could I mean, she'll find it all. Just chuck it all over the place, or push it into a lick mat or something, or into a Kong, and give it to her at the times of day when she's particularly aroused, because she's going to redirect it onto there. It's the same really when Anne's husband comes home. You know, if say you saved some of his tea, the dog's tea, and had it in a Kong or something, give her that, because with that whole exercise of chewing and foraging and hunting, you know, if you're just feeding the dog in its bowls, you know, you really are missing a really good opportunity. You've got Kongs, you've got lick mat things, you've got snuffle mats. You've seen snuffle mat? Hang on a minute.
Yeah, we have got one of the Kongs.
If anybody, whoops, if you haven't seen the snuffle mat, it's like got fleece, and you know, you can, a bit like a piece of grass, you can you know, you can hide food in it. Excuse me. Yes.
The other thing I did notice, and it was interesting, last week we've been doing dog training on a Wednesday night. I've done a puppy course, and we just finished an intermediate course last week, and she'd had a walk before it, and then we went to the course, and I thought she'd be shattered last week afterwards, after an hour of training, but she was quite wired again.
Exactly. That's exactly my point. Certain things which are very overstimulating. I mean, if you think to yourself, I'm going to tire my dog out by playing ball with it for half an hour, you're going to end up, perhaps a dog physically tired for a few minutes, but you're going to have a very high-wired dog, because it's all too much. Yeah, if you want to actually tire the dog out, your best way is to have a long, loose lead, go somewhere that you're not walking anywhere, that you can sniff, and maybe you just follow the dog. You know, the thing is, when I was a child, I lived in the country, and people's dogs, I mean, they belonged to people, but they spent the time going out seeing their friends, you know. And there's a place in Peru, some town in Peru, they put cameras on these dogs, same thing, not much traffic, and the dogs just spend their time wandering around and going home for tea. And they've looked to see what these dogs do. Now, they're all doing things that they choose to do, which people aren't firing them up. They have no problems. They're friendly. They lie around for about 70% of the time. They never travel more than about half a mile. They do a bit of foraging. They have a little bit of scuffling, maybe, a bit of, you know, but they don't do an awful lot. They choose to do a lot of sort of sniffing and mooching and watching and lying about. And we make athletes by, you know, if we do an awful lot of sport and stuff with the dogs, what we're doing, we're creating super fit dogs. And then, of course, we've got to keep it up. But I think, you know, if you really want the dog to be calm, think about what would the dog be doing if it wasn't fast. I think, you know, and then things like food, they're going to be, no dog is, I would say, born with a butler and a bowl. An animal has to work for its food, doesn't it? So I mean, that's what I would do. I would think, in what we think in terms of anyone who's had a consultation with me will probably be sick of hearing this, but the stress bucket, every little thing that happens during the day, say anything that's exciting, or maybe even like with David and tickling the dog. These things send a little bit of adrenaline, cortisol into the dog system. Now, if it's a big excitement or a walk or dog training classes or children coming home or husband coming home, it's going to get a rush of cortisol into the system. Now, these chemicals stay in the system for hours. So what's happening is during the day, this so-called stress bucket is stoking up more quickly than it can drain out. So much of the stuff peaks in the evening when things happen, like kids come home from school, the dog has its last meal, the husband comes home, but it's already up there. So, I mean, if you really think of things which wire the dog and try to cut down on them and do the sort of things that drain the bucket, if you like, which is things to do with sniffing, hunting. Hunting games are great. Then you find it doesn't pile up quite so much. And if it does get up there, it's a bit like a little volcano. It's there. The smallest thing is going to send it over. Now, you know the dog is highly wired and right up the top. You've got two choices. Either you're the victim, is going to be flying all over you, biting you, grabbing you, or you think, what can I do to help my dog now? It's up there to drain all this. You know, is it going to be on me, or am I going to give it something else? And the sort of thing is a young dog. I mean, one really good thing is collect all your recycle rubbish, put it in a big cardboard carton, sprinkle some dry food in there and say, go on, kill it. And you know that a bit of cardboard won't hurt a dog if it swallows it. You know, it can give it something it can actually go to town on. And a lot of dogs, when they are really wild, they like digging holes and maybe get a sandpit. You know, think of things that it can do. Otherwise, what you're doing, you're the helpless victim being bitten, trying to tell the dog off, telling it to get down, saying no, no, no. The dog gets more and more wired, so do you. And you're in a really bad situation. Anyway, let's hear the next one. Is that okay, Sarah?
Yeah, can I just ask one last question before? When you're saying about these activities, if I was to do those, would I do those sort of, even though she's calm in the day, during the day to bring their levels down? Or is that something I would do at night when it was busy to get her busy while things are going on?
Yeah, I would say, because the whole thing gradually, insidiously builds up, although you don't see it, of course, until it peaks. Any little things, I mean, if you've got a choice of two ways of doing things, even during the day, you know, got choice, am I going to throw a ball or am I going to give her something to hunt for? Choose the one which doesn't get her so wound up.
Yeah.
The thing about ball play is that if you think what is actually natural for an animal, and it might see a bird or a squirrel or something, go rushing off chasing it, it might catch it, it might even bring it back to you if you're lucky, but it's going to be a one-off. It might be once more. But it's not going to go out, getting it, bring it back, out, bring it back, out, bring it. It's all the time getting more and more and more hyped up until you've got a sort of ball chase addict. And then, you know, you think you're tiring it out, but in my mind, you're wiring it up. I think a lot of things we do, we think we're tiring the dog out and actually we're wiring it up, probably.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you very much.
We might come, you know, it's more in a minute. Let's give everybody a chance. Emma's next. So, Emma, where are we? I can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, there we go. So I've got a 1-year-old show cocker who's a male. He's still intact. He's called Smidget. And he's always been a very bitey, mouthy puppy. So we always tried the distraction, the tug toys, the throwing things away, but he would hang, and still does sometimes now, hang off your legs, hang off anything that's hanging.
Is it while you're walking about?
Yeah, sometimes. More so now, just not, if I have a scarf on, it's, you know, easy prey, and he'll have the scarf. But more so as he's got older, the mouthing, seems to be more him trying to tell us something. So sometimes he'll mouth you if he wants to go outside, or if he wants to be fed, or it's almost as if he will grab your hand and, you know, so we've kind of worked out there are times where he's almost mouthing to tell you something, and then mouthing because he's either got himself excited or overstimulated. So yeah, he has lots and lots of chews. We've tried lots of different things like the yak chews. He seems to have gone off those. So pizzles and paddywhack and
We've tried
all
the
this.
yak.
Yes, he used to like those. Now he doesn't bother with those. So and he is the least food-driven spaniel. I mean, he's our first dog, but
how do you feed him? Tell me how you feed him.
Well, he's not been well recently. He's had giardia, and so we've had a sort of ongoing series of problems with him. So he's raw fed. So at the moment, for a while, to be honest with you, he wasn't eating anything. So we're slowly getting back to being fed. I hand feed him quite often.
I would try something. I have this theory, and it's often I have been proved right many times. It doesn't mean to say it's right with all dogs, that the harder, like with us, if we have to work for something, we value it more. So if we are hand feeding the dog and trying to entice it and persuade it to eat, it's almost like having an anorexic child. You're going to probably have the opposite effect, I think.
Okay.
I think experiment with 2 or 3 days, making it difficult. Never leave food about. Put it all either in a con, like maybe not pushed in squash so it's hard to get out. Sprinkle some of it around. Do it. Make the dog work for it, and do it. Say divide it into 5 or 6 very small daily bits in the day. So whenever, is it a he or she?
It's a he.
Whenever he's eaten some, it's almost like you're leaving him so he could actually eat more. I would try that, because if you make food harder to get to, he's probably going to value it more.
Okay.
It's a very unnatural thing for an animal to be encouraged to eat, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just try.
And
You've got nothing to lose.
Sorry?
You've got nothing to lose. Try it.
No. And to be fair, it was only when he hit around about 10 months that he would always eat his food and no problem at all. And then suddenly we kind of just weren't interested.
But you're rewarding him for not eating. It's nice not eating because he gets some fuss. He gets, you're encouraging to eat, and you're sort of making it nice not eating.
Yes. So I have been trying, because of course it's been balanced with the fact that he's been unwell. So of course you want him to eat, so he's lost weight.
No, I understand.
So and of course that juxtaposition between, well, I don't want you to be unwell. You clearly have been unwell. You've had lots of medication and antibiotics, etc.
Okay now, is he?
No, we're going back to the vets tomorrow. So
just give it a go for a couple of days. Very small amounts, and each one making him do something for it. Don't hand feed him. See if you can let him get it.
Yes, it was almost as if the other week when he was obviously starting to feel better, he was happy to eat, and I would just put a smaller amount down, and then so I'm kind of building him back up. But of course he ate this morning, no problem, but I put food down this evening and he's not interested.
Well, I would try and more small lots during the day.
Okay.
So you're never giving him more than he can eat it all in one go.
Okay.
Yeah. But the thing is about the actual mouthing, he was a very nippy puppy.
Very nippy puppy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what's your family consist of?
Husband and 2 children.
How old are the children?
They are 12 and 15.
Right. Because children do make things more difficult, and bless them.
And
I mean,
funny
by
enough,
their very nature, the 12-year-old anyway, they're excitable, aren't they?
I know.
They move quickly, they talk loudly, they're children.
And you were saying earlier about my husband does play rough with him with his hands.
Then I've got a lot to answer for, David.
And he would do as a puppy, and I'd be like, is that the right thing to do? Because all we're doing is telling you it's okay to bite us.
Well, you're teaching them that hands are fair game, aren't you? And
Yeah.
you know, if you had your time again, you would have zero tolerance as soon as there's any amount of teeth on hands. No. Right.
It's
from the
great,
very,
isn't
very
it, when
beginning.
you're a first-time dog owner, when you get
Yeah.
to this one
Yeah.
age and you think, oh, if I did it again, I would do it so differently.
I know.
It's like having children all over again.
Right, who have we got next? Let me see who was next on our joining list. That you were number 3, number 4. It was Andrew next. Have we got Andrew? No, we haven't, have we? Oh, what?
That was me. I changed mine. I had the wrong name on my.
Oh right. Oh, you're Tara, of course. Right. Okay. Right. But I thought we hadn't got an Andrew here.
No, that was
Right. So it's your turn next, Tara.
super. We've got Bo, who is just shy of 18 months old. He's a border collie beagle mix.
Oh, that's interesting.
A potent mix. And he was half puppy, half shark, and just shredded us for months when he was really little. So he was always mouthing. And whilst he is a huge amount better than he was, we certainly still have a lot of instances, as other people have said, it's probably worse in the evening, although it's not uniquely in the evening.
Does he have a particular victim?
Sorry?
Does he have a particular victim?
Me, it's me, yeah. He's very much my dog. So
let me interrupt you. Can I just ask you, how many people in your family?
So there's myself, my husband, and 6-year-old twins, and he never does it to the twins ever.
And he doesn't do it much to your husband either.
Not as much, no.
Okay.
So,
would you say you are more sort of animated and excitable than the rest of your family?
Not, probably not with the dog. I think we've really learned to stay very calm around the dog, because we learned that very early, that the more animated we became, the more animated the dog became. There was no two ways about that. So I feel like he does it as attention seeking. So he'll be in the living room and he might have a chew. We did the things that other people have talked about, the distracting with chews, with toys. We tried the kind of just standing up and moving away and isolating him a little bit when he did it. And I think that's probably the most effective, but it's not entirely an answer. And he'll come in and he'll be chewing and he'll be nice and calm. And then for no reason that we can fathom, he will just suddenly decide, no, I want to play, or I want attention, but his way of doing that is to come up and chew on my hands.
But then, yes. So, but obviously from the start, you didn't remove them.
No, well, I think we tried that. We tried the moving away from him and ignoring him, but as a puppy, he was
One thing I think
it wasn't quite as easy to just move away from him.
No, I understand that completely. One thing I do if I see somebody when they first get their puppy, my first thing always is, your puppy needs to start off somewhere small. Your puppy needs a puppy pen, or somewhere, not a crate, somewhere behind a gate or a pen where it immediately is used to the fact that it can't follow you and get to you all the time. Yeah. And you've always got somewhere you can very kind of, come on, good dog in here, done. So that, you can separate yourself. And, what happens is the more space the puppy has, especially the big garden and the room, and you're walking around, you're sort of fair game, if you like.
Yeah.
So one thing, from the beginning, if you had your time again, you really need to have something like that. So the minute the puppy starts getting rough, you can actually separate it from you and give it something to chew, but away from you.
Yeah, we did do that, but we were probably too late doing it.
Yes.
If we're honest. So we do that now. Like he's basically taking up a room of the house. He's got his own room, right? So that is kind of fenced off from the rest of the house. And so when he's not in with us, or if he needs to calm down, then he goes in there. But we probably did that too late, truth be told.
Yes. As if you're probably doing that. What is your worst problem at the moment?
It is the just the overexcitement, and it happens quickly and it accelerates fast. And then when he's in a frenzy, and we don't do rough play with him, we don't, even the kids are really calm around him. But it's like an attention-seeking thing. It's like, I want to play, I want your attention, and the way that he will always default to get that is to come up and start biting my hand.
And of course, he gets it. I mean, you can't help it, can you?
Yeah. Yeah.
They obviously don't do things when there's nothing in it for them.
Yeah.
Whose dogs actually tend to be bad if they're walking about? Quite often it's when you're walking around and they're going for your feet and your trousers and stuff. We haven't got that particularly.
I think when he was younger that was the case, but now he just jumps up on the sofa and decides he's going to show your hands.
Yeah.
Ours is more movement, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Spidget will, if he's frenzied or thinks he's missing out on something, and the kids have gone somewhere and he thinks he's going to be sort of shut away from them, he'll just suddenly launch himself at them, and he'll just suddenly, it's almost, he loses himself. It's like, oh,
Yes.
and he just goes, ah, rah, 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 you know, at their hands and at their trousers, as if I think he feels like they're going to go too quickly before he's had a chance to sort of interact with them.
Kind of desperation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The bottom line is the arousal's built up and his bucket's gone over.
Yeah.
And the thought of them leaving the room has sent him over. Yeah. I mean, I have various little tricks, you know, for certain things, but there's nothing really that can beat calming them down if you possibly can. All the things you can think of to calming them. One of the best things really is to carry, even if they're raw fed, get some of the very best kibble that you can get, best quality kibble, because it's better than treats, and because you can carry it around in your pocket. And as soon as it starts, chuck food all over the place. Because then, you know, you're teaching, say in the case where suddenly frenzy, he goes after the children, you need to sort of interrupt it, but also teach him to do something else instead. You want an alternative behavior that he learns to do.
Yeah.
And anything would be better, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
But it would be got to then look about, to think about using his brain and finding the stuff. You're not rewarding him for, you wouldn't be rewarding him for chasing and biting the children. Lots of people would say, okay, if I chuck food about when he does that, aren't I rewarding him for doing it? You're not, because the problem isn't really going for the children. The problem is excitement. Going for the children is the symptom of the excitement. So you're dealing with the excitement. So if you lower the excitement, then he doesn't do the thing. You could teach him to go for the children by rewarding him, but this is different because he's being driven by something else. So do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Often people are quite confused that, you know, if you're going to use food and everything, it's like rewarding them for
rewarding bad behavior.
But it's not. If you can get, yeah. What would you say, David?
I was just talking to my other half man about it. We noticed his. So our perception of what is exciting, like, is different than his. So he can get excited and he mouths when he gets excited. But Billy, small things can excite him. Like we used to play a lot of ball with him. And this is the thing that we had help from Theo with. So he's a spaniel, he's the first dog, and so we're like, right, let's do that 1,000 times a day and play fetch a lot because he was having a great time. Yeah. And he developed relatively quickly an obsessive disorder around chasing. We basically just reinforce that chase, that drive, that motor drive in him. And we didn't notice it until we started having problems in the house around this kind of slightly manic behavior. And we had to kind of almost forensically track it back to what it was. And since we've been stopping playing ball with him, which felt like a release of energy and just like a way of tiring him out, actually what it was doing is just like putting a fire hose into his bucket. Yeah. He's been much calmer, and so I think now we've just got better at trying to understand what is making him go from, as Tara said, 1 minute he's fine and then he's hanging off you, like not hanging off us, but like sort of mouthing, and it's really sort of fine margins, but and with him it was playing ball, which is really tough because he's spaniel. We want to throw balls for it, but his behaviour has changed a lot.
What happened with my Cocker Spaniel? I learned my own way with that, and all I did. I mean, this is when he's now 11, but back when he was very young, I've actually taught him to catch birds. It's my fault for throwing a ball and getting him so wonderful at catching balls and running after them. You know, and I did it. And he's a changed character, I have to say. Perhaps he could have changed even better, I think. But changed character since I stopped doing all that ball play. We got rid of the ball thrower. Yes. So next person, we've got Lucy, and we've got Denny, and we've got Angie. Is that right?
Yep.
Right. So I think we've got. Is that everybody? I haven't missed anybody. Let's have Lucy next. Okay.
Hi.
So introduce us to your dog.
Yeah, I've got Ted.
Yes.
He's a 6.5-month-old mini golden doodle.
Oh, lovely.
Most of the time, he is good as gold. He really is. He was a very mouthy puppy up until about, I'd say about 4.5 months, and didn't have anything. Didn't have anything for about 4 weeks, completely mouthing free. And then at 5.5 months, he just started to go crazy at the lead again, which we had when he was really little. And then turning on myself, on a walk, and also in the evening, like everybody else, which he still does. He's not terrible, and we're making good progress. But it's definitely when he's, I think he's getting a little bit randy now.
Well, the thing is, when they're aroused, I don't mean sexual necessarily, when they're aroused excitement,
Yeah.
what happens with a lot of dogs, especially when they become adolescent, is that humping is, some dogs dig holes, some dogs chew you, some dogs hump cushions, some dogs, I don't know, chew, bite their tail. It's just that I wouldn't say it's necessarily randy. It's like he's aroused, and it's his way, basically,
excitement.
Really. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's just started to get more like that. He doesn't hump at all, but he will grab onto my arm or leg, hold me, and then he just bites. He bites me. And it's sometimes it's quite scary, really, because he'll growl as well.
Yes.
We've
it's
had
all
a bit of a
over
break.
Excitement, though, isn't it? It's arousal. He's got up there, and you now got to find a way to get rid of it.
Yeah, we've had a breakthrough with the walk in the last couple of days. He was only doing it whenever we get about 100 yards away from our house on the way back.
Oh yes, on the way
back.
And
I think it was his way of saying, I don't want to go home yet.
Right, okay.
So the last couple of days, I've taken a yak chew with me. Right. And just at that time before he's gonna go, I've given it to him.
Very good.
And he's held it, and all the way back, good as gold. Actually, good as gold.
I mean, that would be saying, even if you don't throw the ball, but actually taking a ball on a walk's very useful, because it's like a gobstopper. If a dog likes a ball, and I can't
do much ball work with him because it just excites him too much.
Okay.
I do a kind of I call it fetch and find. So I'll throw the ball once, and he'll come back, because he's got retriever in him. I've never taught him fetch. He just brings it back. Yes. He'll drop it, and then I'll scatter some food in the grass, and that kind of brings him down.
That's really good, because that gets him down again, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then he'll make him sit, and we'll throw the ball again. So I'll make him sit to break his sort of excitement.
Yes.
Then I'll throw again, and he'll come back, and we'll do the find again. And it keeps him lower. I can't do it many times, but it's a way of him enjoying the ball, but a bit calmer.
We're not getting him too stirred up.
Yeah.
One little trick which I've found works quite well with things like on a walk, when the dog suddenly gets excited and wants to grab the lead, or when, say, the dog is chasing you're out in the garden trying to put the washing on the line, and it's just trying to get your legs, because of the movement is to set up a pattern, is to say, do it first of all at home. Get this little game going. So basically, for instance, you could create your own pattern, but my pattern might be, I'm going to walk quite slowly and I'm going to count as I go out loud. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then on 5, I'm going to say food and drop a bit of food. Now I'm going to do it again. 1, 2. Now, when I've done that a few times, the dog is going to start anticipating food on number 5. So all of a sudden, things you anticipate are so much more, more grabbing than what you're actually getting. So once this starts, the dog's no good running ahead because it's not there yet. And often, as soon as if you want to get the dog out of something, if you start going very quietly, 1, 2, and now you've already taught it, that means if you follow right a day, you're going to get food in number 5, and you can do it 2 or 3 times until the dog's calmed down. It doesn't always work, but often it does work because the dog's mind is all of a sudden focused on something totally different.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good idea.
And you can get it out of it. When you've done 5, you can then change direction and go off that way and do it. And then you go, or when you get really good at it, you could actually ask the dog to sit before food. Now, then when you've done that about 3 times, you get to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now keep quiet. You've already said sit. Let's let the dog work it. Just wait. Now the dog's going to say, while I'm getting my food. Oh, you told me to sit last time. Let it work out for itself. Sit, food. Then you could perhaps add down as well. But if you only give the so-called command, I don't like the word command really, I'd rather say cue. If you only give the cue 2 or 3 times, the dog's learned it. Now let it work it out for itself, because anything the dog does working out for itself helps to calm it down.
When he's in these states, I do try and ask him to go down or sit, but obviously he's just too up there to come down.
Yes, that's right. I think that is the thing about this. Once you get done it 2 or 3 times, hopefully it'll calm down a little bit. Now you quietly say the word once. Sit. Now don't say it more than once. And wait. He heard you.
Yeah.
As soon as you get it, drop the food on the ground. Okay, now when you've done that a couple of times, you won't even have to say the word. You just wait. But to begin with, don't say sit or anything. Just get the game going. Just see if it works. It's one other way of getting the dog to concentrate on something else.
At the minute, when he does, I've started, when he does go a bit mad in the evenings, and it's only really me he does it to. He if he's bad, he will possibly try my husband. The kids don't really they keep quite calm and out of it when he's like that. It's mainly me. I do grab his collar and I take him to his crate, which he only goes in there for his treats or food because he doesn't sleep in there. Or in the daytime. He has one for nighttime he sleeps in, but the one in the day he just has food and treats in. I take him in there and I close the door and I wait a minute or 2. I'm near him. He doesn't leave. I don't leave him, but to him to just calm down.
The thing is, if you have to take him by, is there any way you can get him in there without taking him by his collar and dragging him?
No.
Because in a way,
I don't know if I'm making it worse.
If you, when he's in a calm mood, you have a game going where you say to him, come on, in your crate or whatever.
Oh, we do that. We do that. I do that all the time. He knows the word den and he's straight in there and I'll give him food and treats and he's in there.
If you get up and stand by it and say den, will he not go in there?
He's just too hot. He's gone beyond
Perhaps
listening.
You need to try a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Because it's in a way.
It just comes so quickly though.
I don't know that dragging him is really the best.
No, and I don't like particularly doing it, but it has actually.
Yeah.
It has seemed to have calmed him a
you're
bit.
sort of forcing him to calm. Have you tried walking straight out the room and shutting the door?
Yes, and that he's turned into a thief, and anything I haven't put away properly, he then gets, and that makes the game even more fun. So when he was a puppet, tiny, yes. I did that, and that's what stopped him nipping and biting, and we used to leave the room, and he learnt very quickly that he didn't do it anymore. Right. But now he's taller.
To be honest with you, all we can do when there's so many people is make this very general. Yeah. I think you'd really benefit from a one-to-one because we need to look at everything else in his life. There's lots more going on which we can't do here, and it makes a big difference. It really does. because there's certain things which, I mean, every dog's different, and yours is obviously quite an extreme case. Right, so we've got, I think next is Denny. It's you next, isn't it? We've got Denny, and we've got, is that it? Have we done it?
And Angie after me, I think.
Oh, and Angie, of course, yes. Right, okay, Denny.
So, hi. I have a German Shepherd mix. He's a rescue from Bulgaria. He's 9 months old. I've had him since February, March this year, and I've never, ever had a dog. I don't know why I thought it would be a good idea to get a rescue as a first-time dog owner, but there we are. I thought I was doing the right thing, and I don't regret it. It's just I realized how much work it actually is, and that rescues actually come with a lot of behavioral issues.
Tell us for the sake of everybody else, tell us the dog's name and age.
Sasha, 9 months old.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So from a mouthing perspective, Sasha was a very, very mouthy puppy. I kind of did some research because he was chewing on everything and anything, and to the point where I had some people suggest that he was an aggressive chewer, and he used to also nip quite a bit and all of that kind of thing. And then I learned about Kongs, and I learned about enrichment exercises, and I learned about antlers and bull horns and all sorts of wonderful things to replace my lovely antique furniture, which is now worth nothing. So that's been great. But now that, I mean, the mouthing kind of stopped, and now it kind of flares up every now and then, especially when his excitement gets rises up in the evening. So I've actually started freezing his Kongs, which seems to work. And I give him his dinner quite a little bit later, which over time. But I've noticed that if he doesn't sleep particularly, that's when he gets even more mouthy. And he's not really one of those dogs that will come in for a cuddle. Like, he'll come in for a cuddle, and if you try and stroke him, he'll get mouthy.
Yes, but this is what I think perhaps it's the same with David's dog. We assume when the dog comes to lie next to us, it wants us to touch it.
Yeah.
And I think there's an assumption that often the dog doesn't want to be cuddled. I mean, if my dog, one of mine, goes and lies down next to one of my other dogs, is not expecting one of my other dogs to turn and lick it or touch it. It's just lying down next to the dog, you know. So possibly we're making that assumption, which, you know, I think if it happens when the dog comes to us, and it does tend to mouth when we start touching it, we ought to try not touching it at all and see what happens. It might come to us more often.
And I have kind of started to do that, but I mean, today I was lying in bed, and he came up on the bed, and I was too tired to even argue with him and to tell him to get off of the bed. And then he kind of just lay there for 5 minutes, and then he came and he stood on top of me and started like mouthing at me. I said, Sasha, no. And like, I pushed him off, and I got up and I left the room, and then I came back in and he was chilling. So that was fine. And then I sat back down, and then he started mouthing again. Yes. Notice that when I get past the initial like 10 seconds of mouthing, because it's not particularly hard, like, he's not doing it to me, he's just doing it, I don't know, to show affection, maybe is how I'm reading it. I don't know what he's doing, but he always goes back, he lies on his back, he shows his belly, and then if I start scratching his belly, he's fine, and then he stops mouthing. So it's
sort of controlling you, isn't he?
Yeah.
I think with mouthing, to be honest, it's going to carry on until you have zero tolerance, and the minute he starts, that's it. You don't let him do it several times.
But do I walk out, or do I?
The thing is, what the result he's getting is, he comes on your bed, he does this, it gets a bit too much, then you push him, and then you get up and go. I wonder whether it would be better if you could be bothered. I know it sounds like you were tired and you needed a rest, but it would be the minute he starts mouthing, fold your arms, get up, walk out.
Yeah.
you know, just so that he knows that it's, mind you, you're doing really well with him, and he is a handful, I know, and you are doing really well, really well.
So he's doing it right now. This is his mouthing. He's like, let me out.
So what happens if you fold your arms?
So if I take him off and I fold my arms, he jumps back up.
If you stand up.
He's wagging his tail.
Have you got something you can give him now?
Yeah, he's got a yak, which I think he's bored of.
I think you ought to immediately fold your arms and stand up and then go and get him something else. Because otherwise you're not going to teach him not to do it. You need to teach him the alternative that you want him to do instead, really. Because he's already had his fun. Yes. The thing is, you also need to collect some of the chew toys and not have them about all the time, don't you? Because
yes, I've lifted all of them up. I've taken everything. I've taken his toys away. I mean, I leave like 2 or 3, but that's it.
You're busy talking, so he's going to get attention now.
Yeah.
You're doing really well with him. I mean, he's a big challenge. I know that.
Good boy. He is a good boy. But yeah.
You've done well.
He's a pickle.
Not go too much detail. It's Angie now, isn't it? Hello, Angie.
Hello. Right, this is Cece, German Shepherd Collie Cross, as far as we're aware. She's a Romanian rescue. I've had her almost a year. We're a year this week. She's now about 16 months old. Her behaviour has come on immensely in the last month or two. She is extremely hypersensitive, excitable, reactive. But the mouthing issue, it has calmed down. It used to be extreme with my daughter's boyfriend. She's calmed down a lot with him. But I find now
down with her.
Yes, because I keep telling him off.
It's all about, isn't it?
Yes. Everyone's a lot calmer in the house. But I find now her mouthing is more when we aren't paying attention. I think it's an attention seeking with her. You can be sat there with your feet up, but you'll walk past, and again, like Denny said, it's not to hurt, it's to, you feel their teeth, but it doesn't hurt. It just grab.
If she's doing it for attention and she gets attention, then she'll carry on doing it.
Yeah.
There is the thing. So we have the power. Whatever the dog does is as a result of what we do, really. Well, most of it.
If I'm stroking her and she'll put her teeth on my hand, I will stop.
I think and immediately withdraw your hand. I think that's what you've got to do, really, because I think what people tend to do, they let it, like Denny said, they let it carry on for a little while and then withdraw the hand. If you want the dog to stop doing it, it has to be zero tolerance, really. You either do it or you don't do it. And you know, but I think the only way really is to get your hands out of the way.
I've always found with her, if I stand up, whoever she's being silly with, she'll stop. If I stand up, she seems to take note of what I'm doing, thankfully. But it has come on a lot. But I think, again, people think because it looked very similar to Denny, actually. I think it's a size thing, because they're big puppies and they've got big mouths and sharp teeth, but they've got mentalities of puppies still.
Yes.
I think that's where we struggle.
Yes, your dogs are quite similar, really, aren't they?
Yes, they do look similar, yes. I think we treat them as adult dogs because they look like them. And sometimes we forget they are still learning as babies. But,
well, I think really looking at it, everybody seems to be making quite good headway. I feel that perhaps Lucy's the one struggling most. Have we, I know we haven't gone into a great amount of depth because that's impossible when we've got lots of people, but is there anything sort of outstanding anybody would like to sort of say, add or ask or have discussed, which we haven't covered?
I have question connected to the, well, I think it's connected to the mouthing because it all happens at the same time. But one of the things that Bo does, as well as the mouthing, is the constant pawing, which doesn't seem like a big problem, except that he's the size of a small horse and he's got really sharp nails. So it actually, you know, it's very uncomfortable and it is constant. So you'll do the mouthing, he'll do one or the other or both, but it's all part of the same problem. And I still think it's an attention-seeking thing. But is there a way to?
Well, this would be a good one to finish on, really. We need to look, rather than looking at ways to stop the dog doing what the dog's doing, we need to try to be looking at ways to teach the dog what you do want to do. I know that sounds like a lot of words, but in the case of this case, for instance, you know that you probably know when the sequence is going to start. You know when she's going to start doing the mouthing and then start doing the pawing. Is it he or she? I've forgotten.
He. It happens quite suddenly for us. There's not many cues, but yeah.
Probably the time of day even. It's maybe when it's likely you might be sitting down. Yeah. You might be in the evening, you know, and so on.
Yeah.
So you need to now start capturing, if you like, those moments when the dog's doing what you want it to do. So, I mean, I always use a clicker, and perhaps we'll finish with a bit of clicker training, and I'll show you what I would do. Because basically, a clicker means yes. That means that's the moment you're doing what I want. Okay. Now, if you teach the dog that's what the dog means. So it's a click and wait and then food. Okay. Now, what I normally do, and I'm sorry if I've done it, you know, there's a couple of you here have done this before, I think, is to teach the dog, first of all, to come and touch your hand. Because once you've taught the dog with a clicker to touch your hand, you're going to be a bit more expert at using a clicker, and the dog is going to be clicker savvy. So if you bear with me, I'm going to teach you, if you don't know already, how to get your dog to touch your hand using a clicker, okay? Even if your dog already can touch your hand, do it again using a clicker. Now, the click means yes. So you sit somewhere where you can have a tub of very small, tasty bits of food out of the dog's reach, okay? And you have the clicker. Now, if your dog is a nervous dog, just muffle the clicker under your arm the first 2 or 3 times, because you don't want to scare the dog with a loud click, all right? Just make sure the dog isn't scared. Okay, so first thing you can do is just do 2 or 3 clicks. So you go click, wait, get a bit of food, feed the dog. Now, I would try to get the dog to realize that you've dropped the food on the floor, because it's going to have to look away. So once more, click, wait, food. So the click means you never hold the food in your hand, and the dog knows when it hears a click, if it just waits for a minute, it's going to get some food. So the click is a sort of bridge between what you want it to do and the food coming. If every time you click, you must feed, and don't leave the clicker where the kids can get it, because all that clicking won't work. Okay, so right, put your hand out somewhere near the dog's nose level, and you're not going to talk. No good boys and good girls. And wait, and the dog's going to be curious. As soon as you feel the cold nose on your hand, click, and now get a bit of food. Do it over and over and over, because the dog will then start to realize, when I touch your hand, I get a click, and then food follows. If it's a bit slow to do it, try rubbing something smelly on your hand. Okay, now when the dog's getting very good at this, it might take more than 1 session. Some dogs are really quick and some take a long time. Try making it a bit more difficult. Put your hand like that. So it has to go up, put your arm out, stand up, go somewhere else. Okay, so now as soon as it sees your hand and you've got the clicker, it's going to straight away click and food. Now, the question is how to put the word touch on that. So the next thing is, the dog now knows if it sees your hand, it's going to get a click and food. So take the dog to the other side of the room. You can just say the dog's name, Kira or whatever. Kira, dog looks at you, sees the hand, and comes walking over for the food or running over. Now, as it's coming, say touch on the way. So now you're saying touch as it's coming. Now, if you put your hand out and you say to the dog, Kira, touch, this dog will come and see your hand, come and touch it. You don't need the clicker anymore. but you might like to reward it with a piece of food. Now, that's one thing you've got now, is the dog coming to your hand and touching your hand because you've asked it to, not because it's mugging you. All right, that's very different. Your dog coming to your hand because you said touch, than your dog because it's too excited coming and eating your hand. All right, but also you've now got a very useful tool. So in the case, Tara, here you are in the evening, you're sitting down, and before there's any nonsense starting, your lovely dog comes near you and is doing nothing but just being a good dog, standing still for a minute. Right, we'll capture that. I'll give you a bit of food. I'll drop it on the floor. Any little thing you like, capture it. Okay. Now then, if the dog starts pawing, try waiting. Dog stops pawing, puts a food down, paw down, click food. Now then, the danger now is the dog's going to think, right, if I start pawing, then I stop, I'm going to get a click. So you're teaching the dog to paw. So as soon as you suspect that's going to happen, you need to wait, build up some duration, so that instead of clicking the minute he stops pawing, you wait till he stops pawing, paws down, and he's waited for a little bit. Now click on food. Do you see? So you gradually make it longer. So it gives you a little bit more power if you've got a way of telling your dog, that's what I do want you to do. Okay, and I think that I'm sure you could probably all find a use for that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Anne.
Yeah, so I have used the clicker. I've tried quite a lot. There's quite a few things she's done with the clicker, but obviously I've not been able to use it to stop the mouthing.
Well, how are you using it to stop mouthing?
Obviously I've tried when she stopped, I've treated her, but I think perhaps maybe I haven't waited long enough, and I think that's where I've perhaps gone wrong. Yeah,
it's one thing doing it when they've stopped mouthing and stopped pawing, but you're best to try to do it before they even start. So she comes over and she's near you and she isn't doing it, click. If she does anything before she's actually started doing it.
Yeah, I think that's where I've gone wrong. I think, as you say, I've kind of done it.
You always follow with food and never hold the food in your hand, because otherwise all you're doing is encouraging your dog to mug you.
Yeah, it's definitely worth a go. Yeah, I think that's where I've gone wrong.
Well, clickers is quite a tricky thing. I mean, I've spent 9 days clicker training chickens in through 3 chicken camps. And because chickens, I mean, they're very quick and very thick, and so things that you get quite expert clicker training. So it's not an easy thing to do, but I love it. It gives you such a
leave it.
Pardon?
Leave it. Leave.
Right. Okay. I think I've just had a sort of my little parting message really was that first thing is to look at what it is. Is it play? Is it because the dog's too excited? Or is it because the dog's getting cross? Whatever it is, the behavior you get is reinforced by what we do. We do, whatever it is, we are reinforcing it. Even we don't perhaps think we are, because they're not going to do it if there's absolutely nothing in it for them. It might just be that what's in it, is it helps them unwind. Okay, it might just be their way, it helps them unwind, have a good bite of you. But it still means that you've got to give them an alternative and try to give them the alternative before they start. Once they've actually started, you're almost too late. That's it. So in a way, we have got the power. And then basically for the dog to change, there's only one way we can get the dog to change. That's if we ourselves change. I know it's easy just to say that, isn't it? But that's really my job. We look into all the details and see how we can do it. Anyway, hopefully it's been a little bit helpful. Maybe found 1 or 2 little things you can do. And anybody have a session where we really look into your own thing a bit more detail, then let me know. Okay.
Thanks, Theo.
Yeah. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a really nice number. It worked out fine, didn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to turn off the recording if I can find it now. Let me just do that. There we go.